sharing your talent. It was beautiful. As you were listening to the music and chatting a bit, I hope you had a moment to read the obituary for Debbie on the back of your morning's program. If you had not seen it before, it is there for your reading. Today, we're going to celebrate. We are going to celebrate. We're going to experience joy, humor, some touching sentiments, warm admiration for Debbie. We're going to have our memories jogged a bit as we hear and see key moments in the life of Deborah Dix Maxwell. We will celebrate her. Like you, I love Debbie and I miss her. But today we're just going to wrap ourselves up in gratitude for having known her and shared memories and memorable times with her. So, on behalf of Jerry, the family, and the Board of Directors of Safe Inc. of Schenectady, I welcome you and thank you for coming. We will start this morning with a poem read by Barbara Dworkin, a member of Safe Inc. Board of Directors, former president. So Barbara is coming now to share a poem. By the way, all speakers are allowed to remove their masks as they're speaking. Barbara?
Good morning. We Remember Them by Sylvan Kamens and Jack Reamer. At the rising sun and at its going down, we remember her. At the blowing of the wind and in the chill of winter, we remember her. At the opening of the buds and in the rebirth of spring, we remember her. At the blueness of the skies and in the warmth of the summer, we remember her. At the rustling of the leaves and in the beauty of autumn, we remember her. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we remember her. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now part of us as we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, we remember her. When we are lost and sick at heart, we remember her. When we have decisions that are difficult to make, we remember her. When we have joy we crave to share, we remember her. When we have achievements that are based on hers, we remember her. For as long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her.
Thank you, Barbara. That was lovely. So now we come to a part of the program where we will hear tributes from our former student, maybe one or two, and close friends. We have, I believe, is Yasmini in the audience. Okay, former student of Debbie. She's going to come to the mic in a few minutes. Followed by her, a close friend since the 1970s, Dr. Robert Bosca. Tom Sarnacki, also a friend of Debbie's and a colleague from the Schenectady City Schools. And the last time I saw Tom, he was an art teacher. I don't even know. There he is. That's the same Tom I remember. Great. And then we will have Diane Jankowski, who will tell us all about AWOW. A-W-W-O-W. I can't wait to hear that one. So in that order, please hear the tributes from these people. Yasmin?
Good morning, all. I am Yashmini, one of many students that we mentored throughout the years. As my personal tribute to Debbie, I will share a glimpse of my time spent with her. As a mentor, Debbie was the light guiding me throughout my high school years into adulthood. Debbie will forever be an inspiration. What are the odds that my 9th grade math teacher would be my #1 mentor throughout high school, my college years, into adulthood, and eventually became my friend? To motivate her students, Debbie would take us to dinners or little lunches, and we made the honor roll. That was a treat for everyone. I remember going with a few of the other students, and we would sit and she would talk to us. She was a friend when we needed the most. I didn't know I needed a friend, but I did. I never got closure from her passing because I didn't reply to her last email because I was too busy. I just feel wonderful. Coming from an immigrant family, being the first to graduate, the first to attend college, Debbie drove me to all my college visits and sat there with me. She asked all the questions while I sat in the chair clueless. For the opportunities Debbie gave me, I will forever be grateful. She spoke a lot about her husband. I never got to meet him until today. I see why she adored him so much. Debbie helped me open my first bank account. She took me to the bank and sat there with me, opened my first bank account, and now work for that company. Everyone that I meet, that I get close to, I tell them about Debbie. The entire family adores Debbie. She was there for me when I didn't have anyone. For the 12 years that I know Debbie, she wasn't just a mentor. She was my very best friend. She emailed me a lot. We went back and forth. She would meet me for dinner whenever needed me. I know I was a brat sometimes when I was busy and I didn't want to make time for her, but she still tried and she still met with me. And I want to leave a few words with you today that, being from a Hindu background, this is what we would say to someone who recently lost someone. May her soul rest in peace. May her soul be one with God and give eternal peace. That's she will be watching over us. Thank you.
Wow, what a testament. It reminds me of an old song from years past. May the work I've done speak for me. And I think we'll hear more of that. Thank you, Yasmin. That was very touching. Very touching. Okay, Bob? We have another student. Amari? Thank you. Come on up.
Good morning, everybody. I am also Miss Maxwell's former student. I know Miss Maxwell since 9th grade. She was one of the best teachers I had. There have been times where I wanted to give up and she told me to keep going. She was always there for me, pushing me through, even at years after college. We had a lot of lunch dates, dinner dates, and we talked about a lot of stuff. And I'll miss her forever.
Thank you, Amari. Give both of them another round, please. They both were a little reluctant in the beginning, but they got their courage together and came up and expressed their feelings for Debbie. Okay, Dr. Robert, Bob is here, followed by Tom, and then Diane.
Debbie Maxwell was my first meaningful relationship. We met, we met in West Hartford, Connecticut. That's where she grew up. And that summer was a summer job for me. I was like a camp maintenance person. We were both working for the Children's Museum of Hartford. And in Connecticut, we more got to be acquaintances and friendly. Nothing romantic at that time. But it just, as a coincidence, I was a second year in medical school when she was in her third or fourth year of college. So when we got back to Syracuse during the school year, that's when we started dating. And anybody that we interacted with, the students, the children who came to the summer camp, all the camp counselors, the people on the staff, including the camp director, and all the mutual friends and acquaintances at both college and the medical school, anybody who knew Debbie, I never heard anybody say anything bad or have any negative comments. She was an extremely positive person, and I learned a lot. I hesitate to tell this story because it's personal, but partly because I was a nerd who was, spent most of his time studying and had dated very little. Debbie and I got a house together. We had that close a relationship. We were thinking about marriage. Picture over on the table, her sitting next to a guy with a big bushy beard and all of that. These were the 70s, Vietnam War, and other things going on. Anyway, growing up Catholic, I felt that if I was going to get married to someone, I should be 100% sure because it was a lifelong commitment. And because I hadn't dated much, I suggested and talked her into having like an open relationship for a while so I could feel more comfortable in making the lifelong commitment. Anyway, it went along. I had a few dates and I felt like, oh yeah, no, I was ready to make a commitment, but as soon as I experienced, or, I came back to our house because we were living together at the time, and she was with somebody else, and I flipped out. I totally lost it. And it was partly because I cared so much about her. She was such a positive person in my life, but it was like going temporarily insane. And I broke up with her, and I think for her benefit, it was a good thing that I did, because it was just after that she was with with Jared, and they had a relationship. So you can say, in some way, I'm responsible for you. But I miss having such a positive influence in my life, and Well, I was going to mention that even though we stayed in touch occasionally, it was after I separated from the woman that I was married with for a while, my ex. We got back together and had dinners for other... we stayed in touch a little bit, but, you know, they moved to the Capital District years before I eventually ended up, just circumstantially, also moving to Schenectady. But when I heard, even before Debbie died, that she had such an impact on my life, when I heard that her treatment wasn't going well, I just couldn't stop crying for about a half hour. Just shows I'm probably an inhibited guy, but you know, some of that was just me. But it just shows you what a positive person that she was, and how important she was, even for somebody who hadn't seen her for a number of years.
Hey everyone. Hi. I'm a pretty loud talker. I don't know if you want that to happen. I've got that teacher voice. So not too long ago, I gave a speech, and in it I recalled the birth of Schenectady's alternative school, Cities and Schools Academy. At that time, back in 1990, I was fresh out of undergrad, and I got to work with educational titans like Debbie Maxwell. In my speech, I said that when I started, I was like the new kid, and Debbie was like the mom. And after my speech, Debbie, my ultimate educational role model, came up to me. And after I was speaking so fondly about her, I knew that I would cherish the response that I was about to get. Debbie looked at me in the eye and said, "You called me the mom? What the hell? How old do you think I was?" Again, she said, "Really, what the hell?" Of course, her protest was all in jest. She smiled from ear to ear and laughed and gave me a big hug. It was really a perfect moment. As was stated, I'm Tom Cernacki, a friend and colleague of Debbie's. Earnest, genuine, empathetic, compassionate, determined. I think all of us here would agree that all of these qualities suit Debbie, and that's really just scratching the surface. Imagine being a new teacher and being in the midst of Debbie Maxwell. Oftentimes teachers work in isolation, just passing each other in the hallways. That was not the case at Cities and Schools. We were in each other's business plenty, in a good way. In its infancy, we used to dismiss early each Wednesday so we could discuss program, vision, ways to adapt. We would discuss individual students, all of whom struggle to attend, let alone thrive in a typical school. So many of these kids had challenges I couldn't fathom, but Debbie knew all about them. At these meetings, we would sit facing each other. I'd have my 2 cents. Then Debbie would speak volumes, all of it gold. I quickly learned I was in the presence of greatness and genius. I learned more from Debbie about teaching than I had in the 4 years prior in my methods courses. Student-centered, building a relationship before learning could occur. Teaching the whole student. Through various ways, Debbie taught me all of this before it was on education's radar. Our kids always knew that they could trust Debbie and that she would be there for them. She never had a facade with kids or with anyone for that matter. People speak sometimes of an educator saving a kid's life in a very figurative sense. But with her devoted brand of teaching and her work with SAFE, Debbie very literally saved many kids' lives. Her impact on her students will be felt for generations. A core group of us who worked with Debbie in those days, Debbie Katz, Ron Levine, Paul Michelle, Joe Winkler, our Connie Bailey, routinely got together with Debbie over the years. This cruise center was Maxwell, because she was our moral, philosophical, intellectual, and political compass. We were blessed to have conversations with Debbie that extended beyond the classroom. I will treasure the images in my mind of Debbie making thorough work of chicken wings while drinking a Miller Lite and relentlessly hammering on the lunacy of a host of opportunists and idiots in our government. Given the decisions handed down over the past couple weeks, I can hear her raging right now. I can hear it. But with Debbie, it would not be just words. She would do something about it in practical and substantive ways. And I think she'd like all of us to do the same right now. When political talk became too depressing, all I would need to do was mention Emma the dog, or my daughter, also Emma, and a broad smile and a twinkling eye would immediately come over Debbie. She truly loved hearing about my life. That does not happen all that often these days. She was a great listener. Oh, thanks, Daddy. A new paver, those bricks, a new paver was just engraved over at Schenectady's Central Park Rose Garden. It says, Debbie Maxwell made for us a better world. I truly believe that. From now on, when I visit there and I see it, I'll think about what Debbie might say about it. I figure she'll say, the syntax on that engraving, what the hell? But then she would smile and laugh and give a big hug, as I'm sure she's doing with everyone here right now. Miss you, Debbie.
I represent one of 11 female colleagues who have had the privilege of sharing life with Debbie for over 30 years.
We call ourselves a WOW. It all began in the 1980s when all of us were teaching at Steinmetz Middle School. It had been created from the merger of McKinley and Washington Irving Junior High Schools several years earlier and combined the diverse student populations from Mount Pleasant and Hamilton Hill. It was a time of upheaval and social change, and we as teachers grappled with better ways to meet the needs of our students. We experimented with a variety of educational programs such as the R3 program, team teaching, programmed learning, self-contained classes, ESL, and of course, computer learning, just to name a few. We discovered that by combining our varied skills and working together, we could produce good results. So it was no surprise that Debbie, with her dedication to students and positive attitude, became a huge asset when she finally joined the Steinmetz staff. But we as women were also interested in being role models for our students, showing them that we had skills and interests beyond the classroom that led to a very full life. To that end, we formed a faculty female volleyball team called the Steinmetz Chargers, complete with a royal blue t-shirt, which is over there, with a bolt of gold lightning across the front. And we were ready and able to compete with other faculties for other schools, but unfortunately, our life was short-lived due to injury. But it generated a lot of interest. Now, Debbie was always interested in providing rewards to students to celebrate their successes. So, one June weekend, just before review week and final exams, she invited the entire student council to her home on Lincoln Pond, along with several of us as chaperones, to recognize their leadership. But there was a catch. All the students had to bring with them all of their review materials, so that in addition to hiking and swimming and boating and eating, study sessions were arranged to prepare them for their upcoming final exams. As time passed, our professional associations became friendships, and our friendships became a sisterhood. Even though we changed schools, retired, or relocated, our bond remained unbroken. Together, we shared many lunches, dinners, movies. We even hired a limousine to drive us to New York City to see a play. And, of course, we marched in the Washington women's rights movement together. When we learned Debbie had been diagnosed with cancer, we were devastated. But she had such a positive attitude about her recovery, we knew we had to find a way to support her. So we formed the Cold Cap Club. To keep from losing her hair, Debbie would have to wear an ice-cold cap on. An ice-cold cap. There we go. During chemotherapy, that had to be changed every 20 minutes. Now, to help her through this dismal ordeal, we made a quilt to keep her warm and turned each session into a social event by accompanying her and Jerry to the hospital to help with the changing of the cap and provide encouragement and, of course, stimulating conversation. Over several summers, Debbie sent Jerry and the dog back to Schenectady and invited all of us to share a long weekend with her at Lincoln Pond. One summer, when her cancer was in remission, we decided to celebrate by having a Thanksgiving dinner. Debbie cooked the turkey, and the rest of us brought all the trimmings, and we had a marvelous feast. The rest of the weekend, we explored the beauties of the Adirondacks, seen through Debbie's eyes. A hummingbird delicately sipping nectar from the porch feeder. The sun caressing a mountaintop through an early morning fog. Discovering blackberries along the mountain trail. A kayak slipping silently across the glossy lake. Eating s'mores around the campfire at the lean-to. Listening to a waterfall splash through a rocky gorge. Walking in the forest as the pines murmured softly overhead. We discovered that those are the things that strengthened her, sustained her, and gave her courage in the face of adversity, and allowed her to pour out the caring and compassionate spirit so generously to those around her. She now rests in the mountains she so dearly loved, but her legacy lives on in our lives that she so richly touched and embellished.
Such sweet testaments, tributes. Thank you, everyone. May my works speak for me. The works of my hands speak for me. I think it's obvious, just listening to her students, to her old boyfriend, to a colleague, and to a friend. We all want to say, oh, wow. Oh, wow, it was wonderful. And so now the stories that you've heard piqued your interest and probably brought back some memories. We're going to have a visual presentation. You're about to experience a journey. This is going to be a delightful treat. Jerry, her husband, lovingly, thoughtfully, and artfully is going to take us on the video experience. I want you to sit back and enjoy this, for it is beautiful and insightful. We're going to just see Debbie.
Nobody knows how to say goodbye. It seems so easy till you try. Then the moments pass you by. Nobody knows how to say goodbye. There's no place in this world where I'll belong when I'm gone, and I won't know the right from the wrong when I'm gone, and you won't find me singing on this song when I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here, and I won't feel the void of the time when I'm gone. All the pleasures of love will not be mine when I'm gone. My pen won't pour a lyric line when I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. And I won't breathe the bracing air when I'm gone, and I can't even worry about my cares when I'm gone. Won't be asked to do my share when I'm I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. And I won't be running from the rain when I'm gone, and I can't even suffer from the pain when I'm gone. Can't say who's to praise and who's to blame when I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. Won't see the golden of the sun when I'm gone, and the evenings and the mornings will be one when I'm gone. Can't be singing louder than the guns while I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. All my days won't be dances of delight when I'm gone, and the sands will be shifting from my side when I'm gone. Can't add my name into the fight while I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. And I won't be laughing at the lies when I'm gone, and I can't question how or when or why when I'm gone. Can't live proud enough to die when I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it while I'm here. There's no place in this world where I'll belong when I'm gone, and I won't know the right from the wrong when I'm gone, and you won't find me singing on this song when I'm gone, so I guess I'll have to do it. I guess I'll have to do it. Guess I'll have to do it while I'm here.
There are places I remember all my life, though some have changed, some forever, not for better. Some are gone and some remain. All these places had their meanings. With lovers and friends I still can recall. Some are dead and some are living. In my life I've loved them all. But of all these friends and lovers, there is no one compares with you, and these memories lose their meaning when I think of love as something new. Though I know I'll never lose affection for people and things that went before. I know I'll often stop and think about them. In my life
is sure sinking down, but the moon is slowly rising. So this old world must still be spinning around, and I still love you. So close your eyes. You can close your eyes, it's alright. I don't know no love songs, and I can't sing the blues anymore, but I can sing this song, and you can sing this song when I'm gone. It won't be long before another day we're gonna have a good time, and no one's gonna take that time away. You can stay as long as you like. So close your eyes. You can close your eyes, it's alright. I don't know no love songs, and I can't sing the blues anymore, but I can sing this song, and you can sing this song when I'm gone. wish you were here, but you're not. Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones that toast to the ones that we lost on the way. Cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I did not know no pain, when I believed in forever, and everything would stay the same. Now my heart feels like December when somebody say your name. Cause I can't reach out to call you, but I know I will one day. Everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. But everything gon' be alright. Only a person say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones that toast to the ones that we lost on the way. Cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. There's a time that I remember when I never felt so lost, and I felt all the hatred was too powerful to stop. Now my heart feels like an ember, and it's not enough to die. I'll carry these torches for you, and you know I never drop. Yeah, everybody hurts sometimes, everybody hurts someday. Everything gon' be alright. Only a person say, hey. Here's to the ones that we got. Cheers to the wish you were here, but you're not. Cause the dreams bring back all the memories of everything we've been through. Toast to the ones that toast to the ones that we lost on the way. Cause the dreams bring back all the memories, and the memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. Memories bring back your. Memories bring back your.
I told you you were experiencing a journey. What a journey. What a gem. Jerry, it was absolutely lovely, outstanding. Well done.
Thank all the people who sent me pictures to photograph. They're not all my photographs, so thank you all.
How fitting for a great and wonderful life that she lived. We're all better having known her, don't you agree? Yeah. We're all better off. My goodness, Debbie, thank you. All right, let us continue to the second part of our tributes. Jim Keogh from the Schenectady Federation of Teachers, because you saw in the video what an activist she was with the union. And following him is Gregory Fields, the principal of Steinmetz Career and Leadership Academy. I believe I saw, yeah, he's here. So Jim first and then Gregory.
So actually, these are not my words, these are actually Juliet's words. She apologizes for not being able to attend, as does Mike Silvestri. So they asked me to read this. I'm sorry I'm unable to be here with you all to celebrate and remember Deb. Gerald asked how long Debbie held many of the roles within SFT, and I couldn't quite put a number on it. Deb was just one of those representatives that was always in one role or another. Building rep, officer, and continuing on in retirement as a retiree chair on the executive committee. She was a dedicated unionist, always willing to help with a task and there to support members, but more importantly, to me. She was a friend and a champion during my presidency. There were more than a few times when Deb would just quietly give support or encouragement, sometimes when others were being less than supportive, but also just at times as a way of showing her appreciation. At least that's how I perceived it. I'll share one small story that reflected who Deb was as a supporter of colleagues. We had a new member that taught at Steinmetz, and I had heard from someone else that this member was struggling to the point of wanting to know how to resign. I asked Deb to seek her out and see if she could help. She of course did just that, and this member is not only still with us today, but went on to be an active member in the union. Were it not for Deb, we would have lost a great teacher. After Deb's passing, I was sharing with a retired friend of Debbie's how personally sad I was, reflecting on and sharing how she supported me and was generally just always there for me. That individual just responded, yes, that's how Deb was for all of us. The SFT has committed to make 2 donations in Deb's name. One already sent in Deb's name was to the NYSET Legacies Fund in honor of her union activities. The Legacy Fund supports retiree activities around the state. I will forward the acknowledgement of that to Gerald when back in the States. The second is a donation that will be made to Safe Inc. as a memorial and acknowledgement of all she has done to support that organization. We'll all miss Deb within the SFT family and are grateful for her time with us. On behalf of the entire Schenectady Federation of Teachers, please accept our deepest condolences. Juliet. I also want to say that Deb, one of my first interactions with her, she defended me. I was actually brought into the superintendent because it turned out that they didn't want a guidance counselor teaching technology anymore. And Deb actually intervened on my behalf and kept me in my current role, which I've been doing for 25 years now. So I owe her a lot. She got me involved with the union. She was definitely the person who I model myself off of as much as I can when I'm helping and supporting members. Thank you.
Good morning. It's an honor for me to be able to speak at Debbie Maxwell's memorial. Today is Eid, and for me as a Muslim, it's very important for me to participate in those activities. And I'm blessed that I didn't have to make a choice. But I know if I would talk to Debbie and if Eid came out to be today and I was thinking about making a choice, in a humbleness, she would say, go do that, don't come and worry about me. Debbie was a mathematics teacher at Steinmetz. Schenectady Federation of Teachers Vice President, but that didn't define her in total. She was principled. She was very ethical and sought that in others. She was caring for students, families, and staff. And for me personally, she genuinely cared about my health and welfare. She was anti-racist before we even talked about the term. She's committed to the best in our school district and the best at Steinmetz Career Leadership Academy. Matter of fact, I think that probably more appropriately we could rename it the Maxwell Career Leadership Academy. She was intelligent, both cognitively and emotionally, and helped me a great deal with that. She was supportive of all of our students, all of our adults. She was genuine and authentic in all of her interactions with me and everyone else that I saw. She looked at the big picture, and then she could look at the small picture on how we would make sure we do the things we do at Steinmetz. She was trustworthy. If she committed to do anything, or she even gave me advice or criticism, I knew that it wasn't personal, that it was coming from her heart, it was coming from seeking what was best. What was best for me, what was best for the school, and what was best for everyone there. She's very practical. She protected employees through the contract, but she didn't use the contract as a cudgel. Thus, we could always work outside of the box, as we still do today. And a lot of that was from the fact that we had Debbie Maxwell in our building as a building director and as vice president of SFT. She was very reflective, and I think a lot of what we have at Steinmetz right now is a representation of what she was, the warmth and caring. And lastly, I'll speak of the fact that I always tell people she was my mentor. And people are like, how can a teacher be a mentor as a principal? Well, she taught me a lot that we didn't learn in the educational leadership programs. And so I could always trust her, and she would come in my office and close the door and say, Mr. Fields, what you just said you can't say. You could have phrased that a different way. Matter of fact, and sometimes you say, you probably got to go clear that up. But I could always trust that because I knew it was honest, sincere advice. And today, I don't know whether I became considered effective, a highly effective principal or whatever, but I owe much of what I am as a principal to Debbie Maxwell. She taught me what a lot of superintendents and other educational leaders could never teach me. And I will always miss her. Sincerely, always miss her. She did a lot, like I said, a lot of what I do today is all due to Debbie Maxwell. The caring that she had for me, she had for our students, all staff members, whether they had challenges or not. She was there to support them and there to steer them in the right way. And she had no hesitation to do that, to steer anybody into the right way. So again, I'll say, I will always miss her. I think we will always miss her. And again, no one knows about Charles Steinmetz, but we do know about Debbie Maxwell.
Thank you, Greg. And now let us hear from Safe Inc. of Schenectady, where services and shelter are provided to homeless youth who may be victims of sex trafficking. And before Connie comes up, I personally want to say on behalf of the board and the staff, I know some members are here, to thank the SFT members for their donation. It was very kind of you. Thank you. So now let's hear from Connie Duvernay. She's the board vice president, and she will pay tribute to Debbie.
Good afternoon. Much of what I have to say today you've already heard, but I'd like to share my thoughts in my way as a colleague, an educator, and a friend, and also a board member of Safe Inc. of Schenectady. Debbie Maxwell, a board member of Safe Inc. of Schenectady, was the person every organization yearns to have among its membership. There's a lot of attributes that we associate with Debbie, and I'd like to share with you the ones that stand out to me. She was dedicated, ever-present, strong-willed, vociferous, empathetic, emphatic, kind-hearted, caring, responsible, intelligent, focused, and very compassionate, just to name a few. She was a person who immersed herself in all she did, and so developed meaning, principles, and a platform for life and living through her interactions with family and friends, students in her career, health, politics, the environment, and many just causes. And just for the record, if ever you had an occasion to engage in a friendly debate or discussion with Debbie, in which viewpoints were in opposition, it was to your benefit to remember she was a champion of fact-finding, research, and investigation, and wasn't the one who was going to throw in the towel or wave the white flag first. Debbie taught for 40 years, as you all know, first in Syracuse and then in the Schenectady City School District, where she was able to easily bond with middle and high school students, mainly because she listened to them and made them feel respected, and they felt understood and appreciated. Their boosted morale carried forward into the classroom as she taught them math, the subject that is the bane of so many of us. Debbie had a special talent for helping students pass critical exams as they unveil the mysteries of mathematical computations. Imagine the resulting pride, achievement, positive self-esteem, and confidence she fashioned as a result. Clearly, she championed young people, and in return, bonds and respect grew exponentially. And her influence, talent, and compassion didn't stop within classroom walls. They extended well beyond. She was, as you heard earlier today, that teacher who discreetly guided, supported, and walked alongside students as they began to navigate life's challenges and cautiously test the waters of their next steps. And in 2004, Debbie's next step was to become associated with SAFE Incorporated of Schenectady. Debbie commenced her association as a board member of SAFE Inc. in 2004, and her dedication and commitment never waned. There wasn't anything she wouldn't do for SAFE and the youth who gathered under its umbrella of safety. I remember her making beds, washing and folding clothes, cleaning guest rooms, and covering overnight shifts. I remember her traveling miles to attend SAFE meetings, leading committees, scripting guidelines and procedures, vigorously supporting fundraisers. And I especially remember Debbie on the phone and sending emails, even when her energy was waning and vitality was on faint footing, but her determination was unyielding. Her membership exemplified and in many ways mimicked the essence of her commitments. It threaded together myriad characteristics, each one enhancing and capitalizing on the other, and resulting in the person we grew to know, love, and celebrate. So I'll conclude my speech the way I began, by saying, Debbie Maxwell, a board member of SAFE Inc. of Schenectady, was the person every organization yearns to have among its membership. If ever there was a person who illustrated the meaning of compassion, dedication and commitment to the homeless, vulnerable, and exploited youth in our community, and who embraced the opportunity to give selflessly of herself for the betterment of mankind, animals, nature, and just causes. It was Deborah Maxwell. She was a role model and a presence for whom Save Inc. and all those who knew her will always remember and be grateful forever that we were allowed to share a part of the journey with her.
Thank you, Connie. We're almost done. I just want to say we've probably covered every accolade for a superwoman. She was absolutely amazing. We miss her. She truly loved Safe Inc. I'm a retired Schenectady educator as well, but I came to know Debbie best, not as a teacher, but on the board. And I can tell you one thing. If you want to go in the trenches in a war, and you want someone to go into battle with you, pick Debbie. Debbie will go into battle with you. On the back of your program is the link to our website. Jerry asked me to mention that to you. Debbie would love it if you wanted to find out more about the agency and make a donation. Well, I am done, and I am going to appropriately turn it over to Jerry in a moment, but we're going to have an open mic in a few minutes. There may be someone in the audience sitting that did not get an opportunity to come up and share your thoughts. Now is the time. We have a few minutes. If there is anyone that would like to come to the podium to share thoughts. Lois, great, come on up.
Hi everyone, I'm Lois Etkin, and I've been blessed to have been part of the AWWOW group with Diane, Connie, Maria. As Diane said, there were 11 of us, and Debbie's missed. Yesterday, all the people who are in the area received a letter from Gail Smith, who I know many of you know. Gail was a former teacher, principal, assistant superintendent, but a lifelong friend of Debbie Maxwell. So, because Gail has expressed so many of our feelings, I'd like to read this to you. While I can't be there in person, my heart will be there with you all. As I contemplate a new great loss I feel, the great void created by her absence, I will at the same time be filled with gratitude for having been fortunate enough to call her a friend. I miss my friend. I miss the one who would always have the right thing to say to encourage me when things looked anything but hopeful in our country or in the world or in our hometown. I miss my friend who shared her beautiful Adirondacks with me and with others who she welcomed at Lincoln Pond, inviting us to revel in the beauty of the surroundings while reminding us of our responsibilities in taking care of this spectacular piece of land. She did that, you know she did that. I miss my friend whose every thought and action began with making sure she did what she believed was best for the environment, best for her family, best for her students and her friends. I miss my friend who was the greatest alternative educator I've ever known, the greatest advocate for the students who needed one most. I miss my friend who would prod and push for all she thought was right, who spared no effort to bring justice wherever and whenever it seems to be missing. I miss my friend who spoke the truth, even when the truth was hard to hear. I miss my friend who cared so much for so many, so consistently, who never hesitated. to show that caring compassion through her words, her actions, and her example. I hope somehow she knows how very much she meant to all of us. I hope somehow she knows how much I miss my friend. Sending all the love and light that I can to you and everyone who gathers tomorrow to say farewell to Debbie. As you can see, Gail expressed so much of how we're all feeling and how blessed we have been to know our Debbie.
Thank you, Lois. Open mic still open. There's anyone else? Yes.
For those of you who don't know, Debbie was my great aunt. She was also one of the women that taught me what it means to be a woman. She taught me that women should always be both seen and heard. She taught me that I should laugh loudly and that I should always speak my opinion when I have one. She taught me that one person can change the world through the people that they touch every day and through the little things that they do for each of the people that they love. I will miss her deeply, but she has influenced both my career and my education, and I know that she is a big part of why I have chosen to go into social work and to continue helping the people in the community that she so loved. After she passed away, I heard the echoes of all of the amazing work that she had done throughout Schenectady. I heard how loudly she influenced each of you, as well as so many other people that came to my front door, to my workplace, ran into me at the grocery store or in the parks around town, and reminded me how loved she was and how many people she had touched. I know that today is only one of the days that we will remember her, and that we will continue to remember her and to see her light as it shines through this community and all of the other communities that she touched throughout her lifetime, and that you saw in that beautiful video from my Uncle Jerry. Debbie is one of the people that raised my father, and she is one of the people that raised me. She taught me to be spunky, and she will live on in all of the crass jokes that I make and in all of the speeches that I give. And every time I stand up and remember that a woman should strive to be as brave and as courageous as Debbie was, and should hope to touch even half as many of the lives that she did. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Anyone else? It truly has been my pleasure to be your mistress of ceremony. I know the family is inviting you to join them out on the patio at the conclusion of today's celebration for refreshments. But it has to come to an end, and how appropriate for us to hear from, I think that's what Bob was referring to, the bushy head guy in the corner. That was Jerry, right? Oh, that was Bob. Oh, my mistake. Okay. Bob preceded you. So let's hear from Jerry Sahabi, Debbie's husband, who called us maybe 2 months ago and said he wanted to do this, and he wanted Safe Inc. and her friends to be a part. And Jerry, thank you for including us. And I am done. I'm going to turn it over to you. This man is amazing, let me tell you.
Thank you, and thank all of you for helping out set up the food and everything else we had to do for today. I'm going to say a few things that are sort of analytical, and then a few very emotional things. Some of the words that I said over her grave when we buried her in February up on the hill behind our house. So I'll start by being analytical, and The reason I say analytical is because after Debbie died, I went through all of her boxes of records and pieces of her past, letters, notes, high school documents, and I rediscovered my wife. And I thought about it, and I thought about her in a way that I had never thought about her. I guess I started thinking about her as a historian, which I am. And I started saying, what made Debbie Debbie? And I looked at the two parts of her life that were so strong, that's so powerful, and that is her affection for animals and her affection for people. And her affection for nature is obvious from the pictures that I showed you, so I'm not going to go into that. That's right there in front of you. But her affection for animals, there's a story that she used to always tell me. Every few years it would come up, and she would tell it as though I had never heard it before. And it was the story of the convicted dog. And I don't know, Bob, did she tell that to you? The time when she had to testify about the execution of a dog? No? Okay, so I'm privileged to have learned something that Bob doesn't know. She, at a very young age, and I'm not sure how young she was, she witnessed a dog biting a child. She was then asked to testify at a hearing about putting down the dog. And she saw exactly what happened, but she was not allowed to describe everything that took place that led to the dog biting the child. What took place was an abuse. The child was abusing the dog, but I don't know if it was a judge or what kind of a hearing it was, but they would just ask her yes or no questions. You know that routine. You've seen that on law shows all the time. Just stick to yes or no. We don't want to do that. But she was so angry that she was not allowed to describe all of the actions that led to the dog biting the child, that she carried that with her throughout her life. And I think that reflects the empathy that she felt for animals throughout her life. And you can see that also in the pictures. I think I'm a little too... You can see that in the pictures that I showed you, the photographs. I thought I turned it off. I carefully... I did. If you saw me, I thought I hit the right. I'm terrible with this. This is like a 10-year-old cell phone. By the way, Deb and I were one of the last people to get cell phones in the world, probably. Anyway, so it's that story that made me sort of begin to understand her passion and her empathy for animals, her ability to try to read them and see what is it that they need, that they are asking for, and to try to give it to them, whether it be a cat or a dog. And she loved cats and dogs. I know Jessie preferred cats, but she loved both. The other story about her is about compassion for people. And it also goes back to stories she would tell. And it's stories about 1964, the summer when she and her brother Don were sent off with their church group around the world, literally around the world. And her father, who was a foreman for Pratt & Whitney, had saved up money to fund this trip for the two children. And she carried that trip with her throughout her life, and the lessons she learned from that trip. And I'm going to read to you, I found her diary from that trip. First she wrote on note cards, and later they were edited, and they put all of the kids' diaries or selections from the diaries into a book. So I'm going to read to you just a short selection that gives you an understanding of why she was so involved with different organizations that were committed to social and economic justice throughout her life. Our first stop in India was Calcutta. This is a 15-year-old girl writing this. Our first stop in India was Calcutta. We arrived there at 10:30 p.m., went through customs, and then got on a bus and headed for the place. I'm sorry, I forgot I could take this off. Although I probably should keep it on, because the second part I'm going to cry through. We were staying, can I get a tissue? I'll go back to that sentence in a minute. Okay. We went through customs and then got on a bus and headed for the place we were staying in. Looking out of the bus window, I could see people sleeping on the street, some with and some without mats, rooms crowded with people, cows roaming around the street. Later we found out that of the 417 million people in India, 10 million live in Calcutta, and many of these are homeless. Not only in Calcutta are the living conditions poor, but also in the small villages inhabited by 75% of the population. So this is, when they traveled around the world, they also got tutorials and lessons and were educated about each of these places. And I think Debbie, in that trip in 1964, discovered real poverty, discovered real pain and suffering throughout the world. And that is why throughout her life, she read newspapers, and she read newspapers about America, about the rest of the world. She was an avid reader of the Washington Post, of the New York Times. She watched CNN endlessly. She would leave the station on and say, "Can't we watch something else?" And she was half paid attention when something new came up, because they repeat stories all the time. And MSNBC, and of course the Schenectady Gazette to stay up on, keep up with what's going on in the school district and her students and all of that. But it's that trip, I think, taught her about human suffering. And the theme of homelessness, which she returned to when she got involved with Safe House, I think that's one of the themes in her life. And I keep on, I'm meeting these things, and I'm sort of discovering the sources of Debbie as a person, and looking at these early documents that at least she preserved, and that we were able to save. So that is the analytical part of my talk. The next part is the emotional part, which is the words I said over her grave as we lowered her down. And by the way, I visit her every day and leave a memory stone on her grave. And it's comforting. I know not all of you may feel the same way about having a dead spouse or a dead child or a dead parent so close by. But it's somehow, in my view of the universe, it seems and it feels right. So that's for me. I'm not pushing that on anybody else. Okay. I remember when I first discovered you and our love in a cold house over a broken furnace with a burned out transformer coil. I remember our search in a junkyard for that part, which we found, and our joy in the successful repair. I knew, though only half-consciously, that a woman who is willing to take on a broken furnace is a woman to love. I remember our hikes in rain and snow and sunshine across the Western Rockies and north through Canada, the discoveries of beautiful valleys and mountain ranges, the long trek through Ontario, Manitoba, Saskatchewan, Alberta, British Columbia, the Dakotas, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, and more, the canoe and kayak trips that ended well and those that didn't, the sailing adventure that almost took our lives, it really did. The accidental encounters with bears and porcupines, the latter more unpleasant to dogs and to our dogs. I remember the tough times too, the separation and the rejoining and recommitment. Our marriage had its ups and downs, as many marriages do, but our friendship was solid, rock solid. And we survived. We survived some of those downs, and we made it through it. I remember the move to the Adirondacks, the joy of sharing our beautiful homestead with Canadian and American family and friends, the yearly 3-day exiles I happily made to make way for AWOW's all women get-togethers. I remember the pride I took when you leafleted and marched to the affluent homes of corporate leaders to protest on behalf of the poor and the needy, the films and discussions we held at our homes in Syracuse and Schenectady, the day you joined and marched with hundreds of thousands of women to Washington to kick ass. I remember other things as well, and I miss them all. And most of all, Debbie, I miss you. Thank you for coming. I want to thank all of you who came up here and reflected on Debbie and your relationship with Debbie and her life and achievements and the legacy that she left behind. Thank you all. And as we said earlier, there are refreshments out there. Thank you again.